करके फिर शुरू करते हैं।
Hello all, welcome to the CI SummitFX 1st to 4th of September. We are starting with the panel on XR goes mainstream, many facets of XR. We have with us Mr. Ninan Chhaya, co-founder and CEO Go Digital, Mr. Arnanil Ghosh, former managing director of Plenary India, Mr. Kripalu Mehta, co-founder Parallax Labs, Mr. Rajat Oja, founder and CEO of Gametronics. We'll also have Mr. Hemant Satyanarayanan, founder and CEO of Imaginate. Will be joining in shortly. Over to you, Mr. Ninan.
Thank you so much, Karan, and welcome this brilliant panel of industry stalwarts on the interesting topic of panel discussion on XR, is it going mainstream? And basically, before I kind of start the topic and hand over the discussion to the panel, just to give everybody a quick overview about where the XR industry is. I mean, obviously, the last few months have been pretty interesting, for want of a different word. I would not say a better word, but a different word for all of us. And in fact, from an overall market perspective, while things have been going ups and down depending on which industry you are in, there have been some really interesting developments in the XR space. And there were reports which kind of I was looking up. So DigiCapital has given a report that the XR industry is going to be at a $65 billion industry by 2024, and that is just the software part. There was a research by Wins Research, which also pegged the hardware part up, along with it, to make it a $161 billion industry in the next 4 years, that's by 2024. And in fact, if you have been following the XR space, you would have seen quite a few interesting news come out, both globally and closer to home in India. For example, Apple recently bought Next VR, which is a virtual event company, and they bought it for $100 million. Few days ago, they also announced the acquisition of another company called Spaces. Even the hardware space is heating up. Varjo, really interesting hardware manufacturer, recently closed a $54 million funding round to create human eye resolution-based HMDs. If you look at things closer to home, right? Recently, sometime last year, Reliance Jio acquired a company called Tesseract, and a few weeks ago in their AGM, Reliance announced the Jio Glass, which is something looking interesting. Too early to say which way it will go, but I think our panel of experts over here can share more lights upon it. Karan has already done a brief introduction, but I would want Arnav, Kripalu, and Rajat in that alphabetical order to just give us a quick background about what they have been involved in the XR space and what is the focus for each of them. And when we are joined with Hemant, we will add him also to the discussion. So over to you guys. Let's have some XR discussions going. And Arnav, let's start with you, sir.
I think Karan has already introduced us, but just to be very brief, I have been in the XR space for the last this decade, and my stint was I was a co-founder and CEO of Blipper India and Southeast Asia, and that's where I cut my teeth with XR. Not XR really, AR. XR was known as AR those days. XR came in only in the last 3-4 years. And I'm sure we'll have a new term coming in the next 3 years again. What I do right now is I essentially handhold a couple of startups in the same space, as well as I advise clients in the intersection of how immersive tech can really kind of help in commerce and content. bridge that gap in commerce and content and help brands and agencies literally that's where I come from, understand, that purchase funnel, where it would fit in and stuff like that. Very briefly, yes, that's what I do.
Thank you so much, Arnav. Kripalu, how about you? Just if you can tell us what you have been doing.
Thank you, Ninad. Hi, everybody. I'm Kripalu Mehta from Parallax Labs. We've been doing end-to-end solutions in XR since almost 5 years now. Before that, we had a research lab that was one of the initial ones in India, which would be dedicatedly doing design and development research with respect to virtual and augmented reality with an academic institute. So since then, we've been working a lot in the space of manufacturing, defense, healthcare applications, and sort of providing training solutions, marketing solutions in the industry. And personally, I've been a real enthusiast about VR, AR since I've had a background in human-computer interaction, and I see XR is probably that bridge which is going to clear the gaps between humans and technology in terms of being as natural as possible.
Cool. Thank you so much, Kripalu. And over to you, Rajat. Just a quick background about all the fun stuff you keep doing, and then we shall.
Yeah. Cool. So I'm Rajat Ojha, CEO of Gamitronics. And my first stint with VR was in 2004 when we did, a VR solution for Indian Army for defense, and it was Vuzix's virtual reality headset. It was more like a helmet. So people who complain like VR is so big, they should actually just go back in time and see where VR was, And so I've been a big time advocate of virtual reality in general, and early starter with Oculus also. So I was part of their Kickstarter and got my Rift 1, and then that's where the actually mass consumption story started. So we are focusing a lot on theme park and arcades, and especially virtual reality based, location based. So I'm an investor in a company called Jadoos, which has 40 VR arcades all across India and in Philippines now. And of course, I'm part of the, I'm like super involved in that. And my company is actually partner with that too. And then when we do theme park, and as you probably know, that India is going to have more than 100 theme parks in the next 1 year. At least those will be launched. VR is going to be an integral part of all the theme parks. And it's already a lot of theme parks which are already existent are actually going VR way, and we are actually enabling them. And and at the same time, we create our own VR games, which are operational in 140 plus arcades across the world. So that's the big picture, what we do.
Brilliant, Rajat. Thank you so much. And before we proceed, Karan, Hemant is trying to join. He just messaged that he's unable to join as a panelist. Would it be possible for you to add him from your side? He's right now joined as an attendee. Just trying to see if we can get him also before we start off with the discussion. I think while Karan kind of tries to help out Hemant on trying to join him. So let me first start off a quick background about me. Yes, Karan did introduce all of us. And so I run an immersive tech venture called Go Phygital. We help businesses bridge the gap between the physical domain and the digital domain by using AR, VR, and immersive tech. So hence the name Go Phygital. We're a part of Wits Interactive, which is a leading design tech agency. And I've been friends with all these wonderful guys out there in the panel today for many years now. We have the scars to show that we have how both the technology and the immersive tech space has grown in India. Let me start off with Arnav as my first person to ask the question on this. Arnav comes from he's being modest when he just said that he's been in AR for only 10 years. Before that, he has been an advertising guy and has built many brands. Uh, so Arnav, you've been in the advertising space for a long, long time. And for the past decade, you've been in augmented reality. So what we have seen over the year, all of us as people evangelizing the immersive technology, is that the advertising industry has been looking at AR, but it's been a very on and off relationship which they've had with AR. A lot of people have AR or even immersive tech, AR and VR as a digital strategy checklist for them. And they do maybe one campaign or two campaigns, and then if things don't work, they say, oh, AR is dead, VR is dead, they write off the technology part, saying, is this a gimmick? You've been on both sides of the fence, right? I mean, I'm sure you must have sold the solution as an agency guy to a brand, and now you must have also heard a lot of agencies come to you and pitch. What's your take? I mean, my question to you is, what are the factors that have prevented AR for so long to becoming the one of the most preferred medium for an agency or a brand to engage with their audience? And when do you think we'll see AR, immersive tech, AR and VR become an integral part of a digital marketing strategy of a brand and not just be a checkbox in a checklist?
Uh, it's, I think it's become a difficult question to answer now because and it reminds me of a mockumentary in 1996 directed by Christopher Guest where he said waiting for Guffman, where a lot of these performers were waiting for a uh, Broadway theater reviewer to come in and hoping that once he comes in they will become a star, right? That's what's happening with the AR industry today or the agency today, right? Uh, See, there are two parts to the story as far as agencies are concerned, right? One part is lack of effort by the XR industry today to understand what the agencies would need, right? And B, the agencies have been too much starry-eyed by looking at a magic leap, a HoloLens, and saying, hey, you need magic, but sorry, I can't pay for that magic, right? So what do you do? All right. So while I was at Blipper, we had spent a lot of money. I mean, as an opportunity cost in the P&L to educate a lot of agencies, to offer them tools free of cost. But at a certain level, you would find that cost versus value become a huge debate. You would necessarily agencies would not change their mindset. They would necessarily come and say, hey, we have got a brief. You please send a solution tomorrow. So I think it is where XR industry and agencies is today. I think there is a slide. There has been a lot of movement that has happened, but I would have assumed that movement would have had some momentum in the last 3-4 years. Unfortunately, no. Yes, there are the onus from our side is that a lot of us who represents different agencies today or different XR consulting play today, we have all gone to agencies offering us solutions, right? We have not taken an opportunity to invest time in training them, right? We have not created tools where we have said, hey, why don't you create content on your own, right? We have professed a lot of tools, a lot of jargons to agencies by saying that, hey, this is possible, this is not possible, expecting them to cross sell to their clients, right? But our own objective was how can we get some campaigns off the ground. Well, we cannot actually blame the agencies also. If you really see, I was looking at a session yesterday where on XR storytelling, right? But you had nobody from the storytelling community talking about XR storytelling. You had all of us, right, who are technologists to sell a solution. It cannot be a one-sided point of view, right? So I think it is a larger opportunity for us as an industry to form and build a community and co-op the agency boys to understand how they can create storytelling opportunities with technology. Unfortunately, uh, what has happened so far is, as I said, right, uh, there has to be two ways to find a balance between storytelling and solutions, right? Also, what I find really lacking is that while I look at the cons, right, of understanding and saying that it's very easy to go to a conference and say, hey, all brands and businesses will need to have an immersive strategy or need to have a 3D strategy. They'll say, hey, is your data 3D ready, or is your data ready for the immersive web? But what have you done to train them to convert 2D into 3D? You will probably say, okay, this is my cost. This is how I've set up a cloud computing platform where you can easily buy my SaaS license and hey, here you go, right? But even before you kind of get them to convert, you have to spend money and time to educate, right? You have to skill them. I have not seen any platform which will allow the agency community literally, right, to look at programs where you are skilling them. Yes, there have been debates on how you create content. That's fine. But there are so many tools. I mean, the point that you had outlined before the session, saying that DG Capital has said so many $100 billion. I mean, in 2015, DG Capital said that by end of 2020, the entire XR industry would be worth $22 billion, right? We are just shifting the goalpost around. I think largely my understanding of the agency and the brand business is it is still very, very tactical, right? You'd see a lot of briefs coming in during Diwali, right, saying that, oh अच्छा मेरे लिए कुछ कर दो, हमें AR use करना है, please tell me how to use AR. Now if you really look the XR industry from 2 points of view, I think people have been tom-tomming about digital transformation for a long time. It happens from both sides, XR for enterprise and XR for consumers, right? XR for enterprise, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of work happening on skilling, on remote assist and stuff like that. There's a lot of demand. I mean, I have seen myself, Krupalu has done a lot of work. Ninad, yourself, you have done a lot of work. Imaginate has done a lot of work, right? But very few large consumer campaigns have not used VR or not used AR, right? And they have a perception problem. Yes, entertainment and gaming are the low-hanging fruit for XR today, right? But largely, I think it is a responsibility for us. The reason we are still facing the same challenges is because we still want a brief from the client, right? Saying that, oh, हमें brief दे दो, हम आपको solution देंगे, right? It really, there's a cost versus value problem, and there is a ability for the brands or for the agency to understand how to create a storytelling framework in XR. And the second point is that strategically, a lot of these brands will not understand how to create KPIs around XR or in that purchase funnel. If you really talk business structuring or business modeling with XR, because largely what I have seen in the entire digital evangelists that have come in today, they really talk about social, mobile, analytics, and cloud. I mean, that's what I mean. XR is somewhere lost in translation because maybe we haven't done enough as a community to push the agenda to co-opt them to create an understanding and skill and educate them enough. I mean, I think that's the barrier. But having said that, in the last 2-3 years, barring COVID, pre-COVID, there's been a lot of work that has happened, right? Some great campaigns have happened, which I would have assumed would have happened in retail, would have happened in e-commerce, right? But it is happening. It is happening. I'm not saying it is not happening, right? But especially during COVID right now, with retail becoming very omni-channel focused, there are a lot of conversation happening on how can you kind of integrate XR into the consumer journey. But as I said, right, it just takes. It's good to hear Varjo getting $100 million and blah blah blah. But there are so many VR headset players in India, right, who have got better products but who are not valued, right? So it's let's kind of cut the noise out from what is happening globally, right? And let's see what is happening in the country today, right? We have to find ways to co-opt and create a stronger ecosystem, right, to co-opt the entire creative part of the business, to ensure that the brief that you get is not about a brief where they want a solution tomorrow. They understand, co-create a solution which is, which is not saying, sir, 2 lakh mein kar do. या 1 लाख में कर दो, right? That should not be the way it should follow. I mean, that's my 2 cents on why we have struggled so far.
Yeah, 2 cents are worth a lot more than just 2 cents are now always. They are invaluable. And then that was a very passionate call for vocal for local, where local companies need to collaborate. Absolutely. I mean, I completely hear you on that. And I think the other takeaway which I have from one of the points you made is perhaps in the next Summit FX, we should also call in a few brands and a few agencies to be a part of the XR panel instead of just industry folks talking about how awesome XR is. And speaking of awesome, let me move on to the next person who used to run an awesome studio and now is known as Gametronics. So Rajat, you have been in gaming and advertising, entertainment, gaming pretty much go hand in hand. You've been in gaming for almost more than 2 decades now, and been in VR and you're
2.5.
2.5, absolutely.
Wow.
So at least somebody is as old as me in gaming now. That's good to hear. So, and you mentioned about setting up 100 locations for VR arcades. Was this a pre-COVID number or a post-COVID number?
Yeah, interesting. So no, these are post-COVID numbers, post-COVID numbers.
Okay, absolutely awesome. So my question to you is, and location-based VR and AR experiences obviously is going to be something really cool to drive people into theme parks, into amusement parks, as well as VR gaming, like Arnav mentioned, are the lowest hanging fruits in terms of going out there to the consumer space. What's your take from an India perspective? Do you see any interesting IPs coming out of India in the AR, VR gaming space, as well as what's the scale of location-based AR, VR experiences? And you've done quite a few, both in India and globally. So what's the future roadmap looking like, given the current situation about social distancing and people kind of not wanting to step out too much?
Right. Yeah. So yeah, there's a little bit of challenge for sure because people are not stepping out, but that's a temporary problem, and I think it's a blessing in disguise for especially the theme park industry. Because theme park industry had been, it's an age-old industry, ever since Six Flags and Disneyland days and stuff like that. So I think this is the time when people have this cool down time for the first time ever, when they can sit back, relax, and analyze data. Which this industry was not so used to of, because it's a very traditional industry, and when you're analyzing data, you're coming up with new solutions like deep story, how you can actually add, digital content in your physical parts, like the same physical thing, what you do in the, the business side of the things, so, and like one of the classic example is, of course, Star Wars Galaxy Edge in, Anaheim, Disneyland, right? So, which was definitely before COVID, but Disneyland is always ahead of its time and stuff. So how you actually bring in a lot of digital content in the existing theme park and actually, and analyze the mood of, people who are visiting. And at the same time, not just the mood, how you can automate the entire system, especially focuses on now on turnkey, like absolutely humanless kind of environment setup and all those, where people just walk in, they know their queuing system and all those kinds of things. So I think I think this COVID for this particular industry actually taught us that we need to have, systems. If you've been to Void, Void is again a classic example of, how one, platform can be, used for multiple storytelling. And that's what we do in virtual reality. We tell stories in absolutely different ways, what people would not have imagined. And I always treat virtual reality largely as out of home experience kind of thing, where, and because it's good to, probably sit at home and experience and stuff, but once you go out and you actually, so it's like a big multiplex, like, that kind of IMAX kind of feel and stuff, that's where I relate VR to. And that's one of the reasons Void is so successful, Sandbox VR is so successful. You have zero latency in India now, so all these are actually, classic examples of how, VR is used for storytelling. And I'm pretty sure that once this COVID is out, you will see amazing innovation coming all around the globe, especially because people had been thinking about, branching stories, much more immersive world, not just like, kuch bhi banao, kuch bhi nikalo type, but like, oh, you have VR, make a shooter, you have VR, like, make some archery game and all. Even I thought of those kind of stupid things, which I figured out are like not the long-term strategy. So and in India also, I think the rules are changing for sure, and people's appetite definitely has changed amazingly during this lockdown time. We actually opened our 40th arcade, the Jadus, which is our in India. So the thing is that we were not stopping, we were constantly working, and because the COVID is temporary phase, we can't keep on crying about COVID forever, enough of excuses, enough of all that, like crying over COVID thing, because I think we are already working on three theme parks right now. One is in Kanpur, another one is in Florence, and the third one is in Mysore. And at the same time, we are rolling out our arcade centers also. So the thing is, the work has not stopped. So, and I'm pretty sure that's the case with everybody. BMW recently started, their experience zone, in Hyderabad. That's the first in India right now. And that's all about virtual reality and augmented reality, right? You go to BMW showroom, you experience, the car, you drive some of the, killer concept cars they have, all in virtual reality. And at the same time, you can actually bring any car of your dream, right there with your HoloLens and stuff. So all that is happening, and all those things happened during COVID time. So again, as I'm saying that, not everybody is actually using this as an, crybaby kind of thing. And during this time, Kaleido Zone, which is an arcade, company again in India, LBBR, they are raising $3 million right now. At the same time, museums, one of the museum reached out to us during this time, and they are going ahead actually they want to have AR and VR. So they want to bring their museum to people. So all those things are happening. And so India, I don't think that India is actually, of course, we are not there where wide zero latencies and all those guys are. But, step by step, we are definitely not, we are reaching there. We are definitely not far behind. If you see what ICICI has done, what BMW has done in this country, and some more, big, brands have done with VR and AR, has been like kind of interesting, stories for me. So I think in the overall, and at the same time, we finished one of our game, during this COVID time, which is interesting. It's a virtual reality shooter, but with the difference. So yeah, so the thing is that I think, overall industry sentiments are not pessimistic. The numbers are definitely adjusted, because earlier the plan was that we'll touch 1.9 billion in the location-based VR this thing, this year, 1.9 billion. But I am pretty sure that these numbers will be adjusted, because we already lost 6 months of at least, footfall and all those kind of things. But last year it was 1.4 billion, considering that location-based VR is not a an age-old thing. I'm not talking about theme park in general. It's still a decent number. Dave and Buster has rolled out everywhere. 137 locations have virtual reality today. All of them. Not even a single Indian arcade zone you will enter which will not have virtual reality in any form or another. So every single time zones and all those, everybody has some sort of VR. Every theme park like SL World, you go to Imagica, you go to Ramoji, they all have virtual reality, and I'm pretty sure they'll understand that they need to have more of this. And during this time, people actually brought their locations to people. When they are sitting home, they actually gave virtual reality headsets to people, and you experience Ramoji sitting at home probably. So why not? So I think it's been an interesting time. A lot of learning during this phase. I'm super happy that I got this 6 months to probably think, rethink, and re-strategize, and plan things probably much more data-driven approach rather than firefighting all the time. So yeah.
Well, that's a ray of positivity, and it's good to hear such positive vibes, especially when you keep hearing over a lot of other negative things around you in your day-to-day life. And yeah, it's interesting to know that you are building out both VR games for the consumer market as well as location-based. From fun, advertising, entertainment, let's move to something more corporate-ish, something more enterprise level, where Kripalu from Parallax Labs, Kripalu, you and your team have been doing some really interesting work in the Industry 4.0 space, where you've been building training simulations. You worked on AR solutions for a lot of big companies. And in fact, you've done some work with ISRO as well as we were talking the other day, and you're talking something about the defense. What you and Rajat said, that one of the first projects was in the defense space. So, and that's the other facet of XR, right? I mean, yes, while there is advertising, there is entertainment, there's 360 VR videos, gaming, but there's a big chunk of enterprise business which looks at leveraging immersive technology. It could be for training solutions, it could be for employee onboarding. Could you tell us something about what your thoughts are about leveraging XR for Industry 4.0 and what you guys have been doing to kind of look at how you can facilitate companies to use AR and VR for upping the game for their digital transformation?
Sure, thanks. So, I mean, quite some good references, Rajat. Void is something that is really interesting. I mean, probably the best VR experience that I've had is the Void. I mean, I've been to the one in London where I had seen Star Wars experience, the Darth Vader experience. And one more reference that you gave was about Disney. So I would like to, recall, Island of Adventures, which has a really nice. Although it's not headset VR, but it's an attempt to virtual reality in sort of a.
Absolutely, yeah. Right.
The reason I'm mentioning this is because, in the post-COVID period, a lot of people are looking at solutions which are more hygienic. So hygiene is one concern that I see, and would want to highlight. So this is one of the first panels, after COVID. Let's say, we are beginning to enter in the, in the era where we are trying to adjust with COVID. Okay, so hygiene is an issue, and that's where we need to clear the air that doesn't mean that we should be going for headset VR, and that is really important for things like theme park, collective and social experiences. Where you need social distancing. So I've seen, people asking for domes in VR, which is, domes were there. We had Nehru Planetarium in Mumbai, right?
Yeah.
And it's coming in again.
Yeah.
And you have those sort of experiences where you're entirely into the thing. So even they are a really good attempt to virtual reality. Linking COVID to 2.0 is, I would do that, in a very simple way. In the post-COVID period, what people don't want to do is they don't want to travel. And most of these manufacturing units have machineries which are made in Europe. So if we take in account, the Indian ecosystem, the Indian, industry, a lot of machines, are a lot of factories, are in remote locations. So, I've spoken about this, that one of the largest FMCG companies in India has one of its factories in the most remote place in Assam. So, Arnav knows that place, really well, I think. So, this place, it's really difficult to access for a company in Sweden. Okay. So something like a remote assisted solution through the Microsoft HoloLens or Magic Leap is something what the industry is currently looking for. And that's where we are currently. And I would say, remote assistance, remote auditing, remote stock, inquiries, all these things are, on the top level of, industry 4.0 solutions that people are looking for. Second is, I feel, is the digital twin part. Every company wants their machines, even though they were installed like 50 years ago, they want them to be going into the cloud. They want the data to flow into the cloud so that people can access it. Mechanical machines. So that's where we have a lot of collaboration on the table, because XR as an industry, has always been working as a lot of people have been system integrators. Okay, especially in India. So we know how to collaborate and work with other solution providers. Now there's the time where we really work with people who are great with sensors, great with IoT, to be specific, IIoT, industrial IoT, and so that we can enable these companies to go digital, have their digital twin in place. And where the AR will come into picture, I feel, is that the best possible visualization for IoT that is possible is through AR. Okay, I would give an example over here. Is one of the really cool projects that the fluid mechanics, the fluid interfaces lab did in the MIT, is that they propose that why do humans need switchboards? Switchboards are such a non-user friendly interfaces. Okay, so like I said, I've been enthusiast of human computer interfaces. Switchboards are so non-direct manipulation. So you need direct manipulation. How about me looking at the light and saying, okay, I want the intensity to be down by 50%. And that is possible by HoloLens and through IoT. Now, this is what they're calling as fluid interfaces. So you look at the, you look at the light, or you look at the fan and you reduce the speed just by turning your fingers. The interface is actually augmented reality, which is being augmented on the physical device there. Okay, whereas you don't need a switchboard. So a layer above home automation, a layer about home IoT, things like that. So I feel in the post-COVID period, these things are really important. People want to be independent. The industry wants to go non-traveling. Another thing that is really asked for is virtual walkthroughs of factories. So we've been doing that as well. Remote factories in Gujarat and Assam, in a lot of places, even international companies, they've been asking us to, make that. But the challenge, of course, there is that we can't. Somebody has to travel to make the tour, right? So that is another challenge, but I think why I'm saying everything with respect to post-COVID is because a lot of landscape has changed with respect to industry 4.0 after COVID because of these reasons. So yeah, I mean that's my take, which is currently on my head. That is my status. That's
okay.
what.
So you made some interesting points about remote assist and collaboration, companies wanting to look at using the HoloLens and the Magic Leap. Challenges in India, how do you procure a bunch of devices like the HoloLens? Microsoft has not officially launched the HoloLens in India. And I remember reaching out to you in between because you and Hemant from Imaginate, who I'm not sure will be able to join us. I mean, you're one of the first few guys whom I have known in my network who had the HoloLens 1 when it launched. And we had clients coming in and saying, oh, you want to do something with the HoloLens, can you do it? I said, sure, you procure the HoloLens and we'll build it for you. Because the challenge was that because it was not launched officially in India, the import duties were exorbitant. And the price would come to almost twice of the actual device price. And how have you been able to circumvent that issue? I mean, do you go to the US every few months, pick up like a tons of HoloLenses and bring them back in your backpack? Or, or I mean, you quoted Magic Leap and HoloLens, and I'm just wondering, how did you manage to do all of that?
I wouldn't deny that we haven't done that. Last September, my partner actually made a trip to Dubai and got in a few Vive Pros when Vive Pros weren't there, along with a few Rift S's as well. So of course we paid the duty. So while this is a challenge that it's a common challenge that everybody is facing currently, and
Yeah.
I'm not a challenge. But at the same time, there's a lot that is happening apart from being Atmanirbhar. People like Hemant, people like Geo Tesseract, people like there's a company in Mumbai, they're head by Sagar. I think Arnav knows them.
Suraj, right? QWR.
So they've been doing quite some work there. So apart from that, there's a lot of work that is happening on regulation side these days, and I'm involved. I think Arnav is also involved in it. We're trying to recommend and make a roadmap how we can regulate and lower the duties here. So the only way, of course, now is to import these devices. So that is the reason, of course, only the larger enterprises are going for such solutions. I'm sure Rajat would be facing a huge challenge in getting, let's say, 200
Absolutely.
occupancy. Yeah, I mean, how about that?
Yeah,
It's quite some challenge. We
it
need
is
to,
a challenge.
but the only way is to work with the government, or let's say in case of Quest, we need to work with Facebook. Okay, guys, you need to talk to Modi ji for this, because it is the need of the hour. I mean, the industry is lying idle. So and of course for theme parks and arcades, you need that. I mean, there's no other way around. And
Yeah,
I wouldn't deny that Oculus Quest in its own domain, or HoloLens in its own domain, is the best of the class, and we don't want nothing less for India.
right.
Sure, absolutely. So, yeah, I like the point about Atmanirbhar, and which brings me to what you and Arnav had mentioned earlier in the discussion about uh, homegrown HMD or AR VR headset companies who are building out, uh, be it GeoTesseract or be it uh, QWR.
Yeah, put our bets on them.
So, but do you think they would stand up to the quality, or is it for mass production? I mean, because yes, when you need 200 devices, what would you go with? Would you go with somebody who's been there, done that, like an Oculus, or would you put your bet on the underdog, the new guy who's wanting to prove something, and could possibly be more cost effective and a phone call away from a support perspective? Uh, and this question is
Um,
first for Arnav, and then both of you can chip in.
I see. I have a very strong opinion on that, right? Um, the hub for everything that gets manufactured is China, right? Of course, China has a problem now, the geopolitical problem, but but I have very closely worked with folks who manufacture locally, right? And I've seen that the quality is, if not better, but is as good as the HoloLens and Magic Leaps of the world, right? And we've not validated. It's not that I am certifying it. We have got it certified with people who have worked in Magic Leaps of the world. I think there has to be a concerted effort, and I keep on telling this wherever I speak, is VR needs a Marutification strategy, right? Uh, yeah, of course. I mean, when Maruti launched, probably it was not as great as the imported cars that you were used to, right? But VR, in terms of the content, in terms of the opticals and sensors that I have seen used in local headsets today, right? Is probably uh, at par with the global ones. And I think at a certain level, you agree or not, right? It's a hit and miss, right? You have to probably wait until and unless the price points for one of these devices drop, so that you can say, hey, why don't you, then you can scale up. But you never know it's going to drop or not, right? uh, Versus look going in for a $100,000, or not 100,000 really, but uh, 2,000 to $3,000 worth a device, uh, versus a homegrown 30K INR device, right? It sounds that, compared to an INR and to a dollar, the dollar device might be kind of extremely uh, in terms of quality better, in terms of optics better, but you'd be surprised to kind of give it a shot, right? And that's what I've been doing for the last 7-8 months, right? When I've been talking to so many stakeholders in the business, saying that, hey, right, you've been using HoloLens, you've been using Vive, you've been using Quest, you've been using Rift. Why don't you try an Indian-made HMD, right? And give it a shot, right? If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Then you give up hope on the local market, right? It is just that, when you go and talk to anybody today, almost everybody, every second person in India is a defense expert nowadays, right? But you just say, hey, why are we buying a Sukhoi? Why don't you buy a F-35s? But guys are saying, hey, we have LCA Tejas, right? Tejas kharido. But I mean, if you compare apples to apples, Tejas may not be the, may not be the right, right, right what I call the right fighter plane that you have. But that's what you have right now, right? So point is, and even in the government today, I mean, when I have gone through the entire drill, I've been trying to, as Kripalu mentioned, right? When you kind of standardize products and services, when you bring in parity in cost, when you bring in parity in value in the market, right? Uh, you can commercially use a device until and unless it is BIS certified, right? You have to get it BIS certified today, right? And the kind of products I have seen coming out in the last 6 months, and that's not as productive as Rajat maybe, but in terms of value wise. But last 6 months I validated a lot of these headsets that have come in, smart glasses, uh, and right from what Tesseract had launched, what GeoGlass have launched. I think industry today, even in 4.0 or in entertainment or gaming, they need to give the local guys a chance. If you don't give them a chance, then they will not fly. And waiting for a HoloLens to come down to a $200 per piece is not going to happen so fast, right? If what do you want? You want quality in optics. What do you want? You want quality in sensors. Um, you know, Communications. I think there are more than enough that exist in the market today. We're waiting for a chance, right? And the reason they're not getting a chance is because and the reason they are not given a chance is because that they are not able to go to an investor and say, hey, guys, investor saying तुम्हारे पास तो market ही नहीं है, right? But the point is, जैसे सर मैंने तो अपना bootstrap करके I have built the product. I have done Atmanirbhar, but the market is not supporting me because there is no chance, right? And even when you go to a government tender, like government tender on education and stuff like that, a startup will not have a 25 lakh or 35 lakh of a tender value to pay an EMD to start negotiating with the government. And there's a lot of barriers. It's good to is good to coin a jargon, but I think when you go down the layers and unpeel it, there are a lot of problems for a local guy to come up, right? So I think just to answer, Ninad's your point, I think there are, as I said, QWR a point in because we have all experienced their devices. I feel that maybe people like Rajat, maybe you want to experience the device, because you evaluate so many devices, evaluate them, see what the quality is, and maybe you can compare with what other global benchmarks that there are. But I have done this for a period of last 6-7 months, and the reason for me is I feel that if I am talking to a guy in Assam, right, and I give them 5 HoloLens, and the moment I fly out of Assam and come to Bombay, they call me and say, sir, iska ye kharab ho gaya hai. Then what do you do, right? So there is sales and support problem, right? I'm not saying that don't try. All I'm saying is that give them a chance, right? So
Yeah.
I think right from that's all. I mean, that's what I want to say really here.
Absolutely.
So my
Go
quick
ahead.
2 cents before
Yes.
so yeah, we are ready to give chance, and we actually went with like shitload of devices every year. The problem with Indian developers, what I had been seeing, most of them don't they die too early. There was a Mumbai-based company, and they were trying to do something really cool, and we went ahead and we gave them like a place. So we have two facets of the thing. One is theme park, another one is the location-based, arcade centers or virtual reality centers or stuff like that. So in theme park, I cannot take chances. I have to go with the very proven, thing which is there. In the arcade, we call people, even if you have something which is like a prototype stage or something, because that's a place where I can use things like a guinea pig. It's a perfect platform for me to try out new things, check what works, what does not work. A lot of people came with their automation solution, like somebody came with the muscle movement, like you think in your body muscle moves according to, this, system and all those kind of things. So we gave them a chance, because you can, all those things add as a cool factor in arcade centers, but the issue, what I always felt like, whoever we thought of, like even like Geo, when they had their VR, not the Tesseract one, the one before, they gave it to us to test it out, all those kind of things and stuff. It was really, really cool. I don't want to go in detail because I'm on the NDA with them, but the thing is that is something, I would like to immediately go after. But at the same time, if most of the Indian companies, I personally think, are very scientisty kind of companies. They know how to crack the science of it, but they lack the business side of the angle. They don't understand the business. They don't know where to reach out, how to reach out, how to negotiate, how to close the deal. How to provide that kind of support system and all those kind of things. So we've like probably in last 2 or 3 years we reached out to more than 30 plus companies in India in this particular space, and we always figured out this problem with them, that they're always behind science. And I understand, you need to have that neck, because you're dealing with something which is very very scientific and all those kind of things. But when it comes to the pricing, when it comes to structuring the deal and stuff, it's always like it becomes a very frustrating thing, and it has been a very consistent thing in last few years. So we generally go with, okay, this is a proven model, इसपे कौन headache लगाए अपना वो लेगा, let's just do with we generally the same way, like Kripalu gets from Dubai, we get from Hong Kong. And that's the that's the way it goes. But if they start thinking it's like the business side is nailed and all that, then it would be really good, because we also come from the same scientific background kind of thing. So we want to give them a chance. We always try and invite people. And but the thing is that that it goes both ways. Right? It should not be your hand holding or frustrating experience for you also at the same time.
Brilliant. So we have just about 2 minutes to go, and Karan has already pinged me saying we need to quickly wrap up. So before we kind of close the session, a quick summary on this, and all three of you, I would want to ask, in your opinion, what are the 2 or 3 things? First off, is XR mainstream according to you? If yes, what are the 2 things or 3 things which has helped it go mainstream? And if no, what is it that needs to be done for it to go mainstream? Let's start with you, Arnav.
It is definitely not mainstream. I mean, I said there are multiple factors that needs to work together to make it, I'll say, mainstream. One is adoption, definitely, right? But I think what is working in the favor of XR, I'm talking of purely consumer XR right now, is the entire movement of the XR from web to from app to web, right? Web is driving a huge amount of adoption. It has broken down a lot of barriers for a lot of clients who felt value in kind of integrating them with the media plans. They felt it's another media tool. That's the unfortunate part of XR right now, that it's become part of a media framework. But also the fact that XR to really evolve, to become mainstream, there has to be a content, there has to be a reskilling and understanding of how to create the foundational part of XR, which is get your content and data ready for immersive, right? I think there are need gaps, but yeah, I mean, I think those need gaps are getting shorter as we progress. And I believe that web, definitely. I mean, you talk about eighth wall, you talk about Snapchats, you talk about Spark AR, you talk about there are multiples of people trying to kind of do browser based experiences, basically. But I think that probably have not solved the distribution part of XR, but I think pure play XR experience is still natively built, right? I think that is still struggling a bit right now.
Sure. Kripalu, how about you? And then quickly, Rajat, because I realize we've run out of time, but we just need to try and summarize this before we log off, all of us.
Yeah. So I would actually agree with what Arnav has said. XR is
Everybody agrees with Arnav. Nobody disagrees.
It's not mainstream, but it has a lot of potential to go mainstream, like I said, in industry and manufacturing. If we really work on the cost of the devices, the cost of services, and availability and accessibility to the device. So accessibility, I think, is one of the major factors that we need to look at when it comes to industry. When it comes to the end consumer, we need to see a shift that we saw in smartphones in 2007, after the launch of iPhone and the introduction of Android. So something like that has to happen in terms of consumer. Over there, I would also add that we need to identify really good use cases how we make a shift. And I mean, we don't see XR as some tech that has to be adopted. It is going to be a change in the way we interact with computers. So it is going to be an entire shift. It's like a paradigm shift, and it's not going to be so simple. So there would be big movements like Oculus. Introduction of Oculus has been the biggest movement, I think. Um, and we anticipate some more in the coming years. Let's say, something like a pair of glasses by Apple.
Sure.
So I think those are.
So, right. I'm sorry, Karan just again pinged me saying the other panelists are already ready. So, Rajat, yes, no, is XR, does it have potential? Yes, no. It has
Not
potential.
mainstream. You need consolidation. No, you need consolidation. You need standards, and you need a seamless integration within your life. That's all.
Okay. On that note, thank you guys.
Just
Thank you, Arnav, Krupalu, and Rajat for your time on this panel. To summarize.